Oda once said, when Shanks frequently appears, the final saga is upon us. And that is now. Shanks has had more appearances in the last couple hundred chapters than he has for the entire series. And Shanks becoming so frequent makes sense. If anything, Shanks is just as important to One Piece as Luffy himself. He was the one who passed the will of Roger to Luffy with the Straw Hat. He is exactly why Luffy has the Gum Gum, now known as the model Nika, Devil Fruit, and he's even referred to as a child of fate. But why? What is the purpose of making Shanks so important? Well, today I aim to answer that question. I will be breaking Shanks down completely, exploring his tale A to Z, and getting to the bottom of what is up with this red-haired man. But without further ado, this is it. This is the story of Shanks, a man more important than you could ever know. A legend who is going to break the One Piece world in half, and he's done it all up to now, from the shadows. A great pirate. The first chapter of One Piece does everything to establish that Shanks is the best of the best. With little Luffy looking up to this man alone, Roger didn't matter all that much to us in this moment. It was this striking, red-haired pirate who commanded our attention. Red-haired Shanks is introduced as a carefree pirate with a reliable crew, all of which who believe in him, leaving us with an understanding as to why our pirate-loving main character Luffy also loves him so much. He's just a good guy. In this moment, a bandit slams his way into the tavern. He laughs at the sight of Shanks and his crew. He pushes his way into the bar, and when Shanks offers him some drink, he slams the bottle right into his face. While anyone else would react with anger, Shanks begins to clean up the mess. When he's struck again, he ignores the bandit as he walks out, already showing Shanks to be a surprising character. Evermore as he smiles, laughs, and even defends his actions to Luffy. All it was drinks spilled on him. Killing doesn't make you any more of a man. Despite being a pirate, Shanks has morals and his own ideals about what makes you a man. This is pretty striking, as the idea of pirates and how other media portray them leads us to obviously think of brutality, thieving seafarers who cause chaos. Yet Shanks, the one we look up to through Luffy's eyes, is shown to be the opposite. He's not only a great pirate, but he's a great man, a kind one, the opposite of everything you'd expect from a world of pirates. Though in this moment everything derails, Luffy's arm stretches out. He's ate a devil fruit Shanks has stored, one they stole from an enemy ship. And for the first time, Shanks gets angry. This was an extremely important secret treasure, and now Luffy can't swim. But while for now the contrast of instant anger makes sense because it was treasure and he cares for the well-being of Luffy, not being able to swim is gonna suck for this dude. In the future, this moment becomes possibly the biggest question when it comes to Shanks. Why exactly did he have this devil fruit? But trust me, we'll be coming back to this. From here, the bandits return to mess with Luffy. Shanks comes to save him and his crew fight back against the bandits. As while before it was just him, now they're messing with Luffy, his friend. Again, a very kind man. The bandit escapes with Luffy and drops him into the sea, where Shanks quickly shows up to save the boy, no fear in the face of the beast. Matter of fact, ordering it to leave, and it does, showing the strength Shanks possesses. Even nature bows to his will. Also, Shanks doesn't have a devil fruit as he's swimming here, just good to know. The scene then zooms out as Shanks smiles at Luffy. His arm was taken by the beast, and all the red-haired man can say is, it's a small price to pay, just an arm. I'm just glad you're okay. Shanks' sacrifice inspired Luffy beyond belief. He wanted to be a great captain as Shanks was, a kind pirate who cared for others above all. And with the declaration of becoming the Pirate King, Shanks takes his hat and places it upon Luffy's head, stating, keep it safe for him. He can give it back when he becomes a great pirate. This marks the beginning of a promise that would kick One Piece off, and it all started with this man, Red-Haired Shanks. Shanks is such a beautiful starting point for One Piece, as in this moment to us, he's just another pirate. This states loud and clear, right away from the very beginning of the series, that not all pirates are horrible, crazy beings. They're not horrible like other media would suggest. They're actual diamonds in the rough, like Shanks and the Luffy we are going to follow from here on out. The hat is also perfect. I wish I had mine, but it's pretty much like a symbolic representation of Shanks passing on his will to Luffy. It's an icon from Shanks to represent what a good man is. Kind, free, and a person who will always help others before himself. Shanks wants Luffy to grow into these attributes, as they are what a great pirate is considered to be. Setting Luffy up perfectly to grow into the Luffy the whole entire story of One Piece revolves around. Yet despite this, despite being this man who set Luffy up on this 1000 plus chapter journey, we get basically nothing from here on out. And if he is going to appear, which I'm going to add right now is rare, it only adds to the mysteries of Shanks, who he is, and what exactly is he doing. But now, having revisited his introduction, understanding the role he plays at the beginning of One Piece, and why he's so important from the very beginning, we can only wonder, why is he kept so mysterious? A feeling of mysteriousness is kept as the next time we hear about Shanks isn't through him, rather a random pirate Luffy meets at the start of his journey, Buggy. This weird blue-haired clown expresses the fact that Luffy reminds him of Shanks, and through a backstory of how Buggy got its devil fruit, we learn the mysterious truth that they once sailed on the same ship. While Shanks seems to be the same old Shanks, same outfit, hat and all, red hair, whatever, it offers up a huge question of Shanks. What did he do in his youth? How did he himself become great? But Shanks' next real appearance is perfection itself. Nearly 100 chapters later, when Luffy makes his grand entrance into the world, crashing onto the scene with a bounty of 30 million, we quickly cut away to a random island. Here, we watch Mihawk stumble into a jungle's depths. Inside, he finds a familiar red-haired man, facing him, saying this certain pirate reminds him of a story Shanks once told. In this moment, everyone gasps and Shanks smiles. Luffy has arrived. He's become a pirate. And with this, a big party breaks out, where Shanks is especially happy to drink. This moment is heartwarming and serves as a simple reminder of who really got this quest going for Luffy. But man, remember how I said mysterious? Yeah, it really gets going with a bang here. This whole scene is clouded with over-the-top dark shadows, which hit especially hard in the black and white manga. And this is on top of this rival-esque relationship with Mihawk being introduced. As we all know, Mihawk is not just anyone, he's the world's strongest swordsman. Holding a rival situationship with him is crazy. It's the very first hint to us that Shanks is not no ordinary pirate. Not only must he be crazy strong, but there must be depths to him we have no idea about. This, amongst other things shown in this time period, only add to these mysterious depths. Later down the line, the warlords have a meeting where a no-name pirate sneaks in. He recommends a new warlord, one we all know becomes Blackbeard. In this same exact chapter, far away, we watch a different pirate stumble onto his ship. He carries a letter from Shanks himself, and it's then revealed this letter was for Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. The letter is rejected. Hearing of this, Shanks can't stop laughing, and he in response readies to go to Whitebeard himself. The government might try and stop him, but who cares? He gets up and leaves with a smile. Again, Shanks must be incredibly strong if he can smile while going to who the narrator literally just deemed the strongest man in the world. And here, I must make it clear, this was in chapter 234, well over 100 chapters since that last appearance. We have all but forgotten about him here at this point. And again, it's not for another 200 chapters till we see this conversation that they actually had. The point is, Shanks is not meant to appear properly to us right now. While of course we love him so much for his opening in this story, he's meant to seem more mysterious and far away to us right now. Yet Oda continues to give us a glimpse once in a while. It's screaming one thing: importance. Shanks is important. Don't forget his connection, don't forget his connection to Luffy, and don't forget that message he said years ago, that when Shanks continuously appears, One Piece is in its final saga. Oda has to remind us that Shanks has an importance we can only dream of right now. Shanks arrives to meet Whitebeard. This is a huge deal. The Navy is in complete panic, and Whitebeard's crew in the presence of Shanks, they pass out. His haki is that strong. These two powerhouses face each other. It's tense. Whitebeard saying Shanks reminds him of the scars he got from him. Not Shanks, but someone we'll soon understand is well connected to the both of them. Shanks tosses the man some wine and they casually drink, it turning into a nostalgic moment as Whitebeard reflects on Shanks' growth. He's made quite a leap since being an apprentice on Roger's ship, the Pirate King ship. That him they mentioned before, it was Pirate King Gold D. Roger. Shanks reminds Whitebeard of this very Roger. This is such a big reveal. Shanks being part of Roger's crew is another huge part of his character. What I'm gonna have to ask you to hold on and remember for me. I'm sorry you gotta wait, but I promise we're gonna get very deep into this point later down the line. For now, they speak of that time with nostalgia, even mentioning Buggy, calling back to their time as shipmates. Who could have imagined it was on the Pirate King ship? Whitebeard then asks about Shanks' arm, our red-haired man stating he gave it up for the sake of the new era. Very particular word choice. It emphasizes how much he believes in Luffy, implying he believes Luffy will be the one to top the new era. Still, besides this, Shanks is a big concern. He points to the scars across his eye. They ache. They were given to him by Blackbeard, and he is Shanks' biggest concern. He demands Whitebeard stop Ace. Now is not the time to pit them against each other. Please, do not go after Blackbeard. Whitebeard angers. Blackbeard killed a crewmate, an unforgivable sin. Shanks more than understands the importance of messing with those deer, and so he knows this will become a fight. Still he states, no one will be able to stop the new era from spiraling into chaos, implying all hell will break loose if Ace and Blackbeard meet. But with this, their blades clash, cracking and splitting the sky into two, an unfathomable feat proving their unstoppable strength. Up to now, we've seen Shanks as this inspiration, one so lovable because he's the one who set Luffy up on this journey. But with this scene, the way we're meant to look at Shanks slightly shifts, and it is very intentional. With this meeting, Shanks begins to take on a proper role. If I had to label it, it'd be one of being almost a protector of the new era. This is obviously a very important role to him, as not only did he entrust his hat to Luffy, but he lost his arm for him, saying here it was for the sake of this new era. Shanks also made the big ask of forgetting about chasing Blackbeard despite his despicable crime, implying that it will spiral the new era into chaos. He goes as far as clashing with the world's strongest man for this very point. This is also perfectly timed to the grand narrative of One Piece, as things outside of Shanks are changing tons, proved with the topic of this conversation, Blackbeard. He is going to go on to create unimaginable chaos. That's Blackbeard chaos. My point is, the grand narrative of One Piece is beginning to open up, and as it opens up, Shanks is beginning to shift in that narrative slightly, implying like so many other moments, There's more to Shanks than we could have imagined. Still though, it's clear we're not quite in that final saga where he appears all the time yet. As from here, it's well over 100 chapters till we see the red-haired captain again. The Marineford War is the exact chaos Shanks feared, and now he's shown up himself to stop it, blocking an admiral's full power strike with nothing but a one-arm backed blade. Everyone at once notices his presence, they fear it, all as Shanks picks up Luffy's lost hat, yelling out he's come to end this war. It's also said Shanks fought Kaido, another emperor, just yesterday, meaning he fought one of the strongest on the sea, went to show up here, looks unharmed, and still has fire in him. Shanks really is just that guy if you were wondering. But now he reflects on the straw hat, the symbol of his will that he passed on to Luffy, the image of being a good and free person. He sends it back to Luffy with thoughts on it all, concluding this moment with the obvious. He can't see Luffy right now as it would violate their agreement. Oda always just has to remind us of Shanks and how much he means to Luffy. With this though, Shanks stands proud. Fighting would lead to more loss of life for everyone. But if anyone still has it in them, he and his crew will fight. Blackbeard decides to back out as Shanks orders everyone to withdraw. And with no word shared, it would appear everyone has accepted this. Shanks declares he'll see to the burial of Whitebeard and Ace as the war ends. Like before, it would appear Shanks has attempted to protect the new era. And while he stopped it from becoming worse, after all, Blackbeard was bound to cause even more death and chaos, the world certainly did change that day. The death of Whitebeard created an insane power vacuum, and with his declarations and powerful actions, that vacuum was raced to be fulfilled. Not to mention Blackbeard. In an instant, he had become an all-powerful force with the crew full of monsters. And just before this, nobody even knew he existed. Shanks' fears were very real. But Kid puts it best for us. Despite Shanks' efforts, a turbulent new era has begun. For now, the last we see of Shanks is him before Whitebeard and Ace's graves. And all Shanks can think of is Luffy. He knows he's in pain. He reflects on Ace's sacrifice. It's like what Roger would do. He wishes he would have ran away or let himself cry. But finally, Shanks' words for Luffy, again protecting and helping the new era. You grow and become a man by experiencing victory and defeat, by doing difficult things and shedding tears. Crying is alright, just overcome it. This scene is placed to remind us of the weight Shanks carries. He not only stopped this war, but was allowed to walk in and bury the dead. Dude is a monster in the One Piece world, and Oda's gotta make sure we know that. Yet we're also given lines that highlight Shanks wants to see Luffy grow, and in turn, the new era, allowing these new challengers to grow and flourish in this era of chaos that is only going to get crazier, still seems to be his goal. We also get another mention of Roger, Shanks seemingly speaking about him in a nostalgic tone. And maybe it's just me, but it kinda reminds me of how he speaks about Luffy. Perhaps alluding to him and Roger's relationship. Maybe they were how Luffy and Shanks are right now. But with this, in Shanks style of course, it's 300 whole chapters till we see the red-haired pirate captain again. And of course this appearance is 2 small panels, ones you can't even really consider a appearance if you ask me, like it's not even enough to make a whole page. Luffy receives a grand bounty of 1.5 billion berries. He's in the race for a potential emperor, and so all the emperors react, including Shanks, stating they'll be meeting soon with a smile. Yeah, that's it, all we get. Though it's like what Oda has done so many times up to now. He gives us Shanks randomly, once in 200 chapters, just enough to remind us of his impact on Luffy and that Shanks is very much important. But here, Shanks states they'll be meeting soon. Him acknowledging that Luffy is indeed becoming a great pirate. And remember, of course, they can't meet till Luffy does indeed become great. It's a very sweet way to remind us of this bond. And while of course this is a very cute moment, in the next moment, it becomes shocking. The reverie is in full swing, yet behind closed doors, a meeting is requested with the government's elders. They granted it, though say this being in a dark cloak should have nothing to do with politics. And as the panels move down, under the cloak is a red-haired man, stating nothing but that there's a pirate they must speak about. But wait, this is really weird. Everything says this is Shanks, but we don't actually get any defining traits of Shanks. Everything to tell us this is him is covered with a black cloak. There's no scars, no sword, and we can't even see the silly pants he wears. And then perhaps more alarming, this is only 4 chapters after Shanks smiles at Luffy's poster. You're telling me we get 2 center stage Shanks appearances in 4 chapters? Something just isn't adding up. But to play devil's advocate, this is quite a bombshell. A red-haired man, one we are going to assume in this moment, is Shanks, our red-haired star captain. He pops up to speak to the figureheads of the government itself. And so we ask, what topic could be so important? So important that the government itself would ignore his piracy and allow him to speak on. Is this more attempting to protect the new era? Stop Blackbeard's wrath? Or scarily enough, could it maybe even be about Luffy, someone he spoke about a few chapters earlier? I'm sorry, but this too is going to be another breadcrumb I ask you to hold on to. I'm sorry, there's a lot by now. And so, I'm going to actually give you some answers to another breadcrumb. I think it's finally time to answer one of the biggest questions about Shanks. His youth, connection with Roger, and how the Straw Hat doesn't just resemble Shanks passing his will to Luffy, but Roger, king of the pirates. A will involving one of the most important figures in One Piece, Joyboy. Shanks from a young age sailed on the Pirate King, Gold D. Roger's ship. This crew found Shanks as a baby, discovering him in a treasure chest soon after the God Valley incident. If fate is real, well then this has gotta be a sign, as this discovery would change the world of One Piece forever. But back to it, Shanks was raised on this ship, becoming particularly close with another kid on the ship, this of course being Buggy. Due to being brought up right next to Roger, we can understand where Shanks got a lot of his carefree and kind-like traits, as pirates are meant to be the freest in the world, and Roger himself embodied this very idea to his core. Shanks was also able to see tons of the world while understanding the best and the worst of it, not to mention learning many truths people would never have any idea of. Though of course the day finally came. Roger had found the last island and was ready to go, but Buggy was sick and Shanks decided to stay back with him, stating he'll take his own ship to the end one day. He was determined as any kid would, kinda almost like a little Luffy. The tale then goes how we know. Roger made it, he laughed, and upon returning, Roger and Shanks met, shared words, and here Shanks was given Roger's hat, all before we watched Roger speak of how in truth, they were too early for whatever the grand treasure was, and that soon, someone will be born that matches whatever the criteria are. A person Roger hopes is his son, Ace. Roger was then executed, and on that day Shanks stated he changed his mind. He didn't feel like going. He'll be a pirate, a free man, but he won't go to the final island. All spoke with Roger's hat on his head. It would seem whatever happened when Roger returned, whatever they spoke about, it changed Shanks. The likely assumption is that when Roger spoke to Shanks and passed the Straw Hat down, he revealed the truth of what he saw. That in the end, they were too early. It's also easy to assume that he told Shanks a lot more, as by what Roger had already said to us, well, he too would have been too early. The thing we know by name as the One Piece, Roger was too early to properly achieve it, saying that it'll be 10 years till the birth and 15 to grow. Basically, bare minimum, it would be 25 years till the being who would grab this item would appear. Roger himself was on limited time due to illness, and Shanks was already born. While he of course was young and had the world in his hands, he wasn't the one the world was specifically asking for. It also answers that weird moment from before. If Roger told Shanks that he wasn't the one, well of course Shanks wouldn't be instantly ready to go look for the One Piece himself. The key thing here though is that this is when the hat was passed on, when Roger revealed this assumed truth to Shanks. And in the way the hat is a symbolic passing of wills from Shanks to Luffy, become a great pirate like he is, you can see it as Roger passing his will to Shanks. Roger wanted Shanks to become a great pirate like him. Of course that's the obvious, but truth is, this will is hinted to be far more grand than just becoming a great pirate. You can phrase it so many different ways, but in reality, it seems that Roger's will resembles finding the one who will be the one. Being the being who will truly be the one to find the One Piece. Completing the treasure Roger could never see for himself. The hat is meant to fall into the hands of the freest man in the world. One like Roger and the One Piece itself is waiting for. It is a symbol meant to be passed on to the one we can call Joyboy. Joyboy was the first pirate in history. He was a great and was the one who left the One Piece behind. He was defeated with the creation of the world government and promptly erased from history. Yet of course, traces exist. Roger proved this as he sailed freely and reached Joyboy's final island, laughing, and discovering that whatever Joyboy left, they needed a certain someone for it. Someone you can likely assume is very near or like Joyboy himself. After all, it makes sense, who else would be able to use his treasure? But how does Joyboy wrap back into Roger, Luffy and Shanks, and the Straw Hat? Well of course, Luffy, the one the hat was passed to, has since unlocked the true power of his devil fruit, revealing it wasn't actually the gum fruit he ate from Shanks that day. In reality, it's a human fruit, model Nika, the sun god, a form all who know refer to as Joyboy. In every single moment possible, it is told to us that Luffy has become what Joyboy was. Even crazier, it's revealed in this same arc that the gum fruit was stolen from a government ship, stolen by none other than Shanks, implying he deliberately attacked this government ship, one that must have been highly guarded, as the elders cite they pretty much haven't been able to find this fruit ever. He did it all to obtain the fruit that would awaken into what we're assuming is the criteria Roger mentioned, a new Joyboy. And so, what we have now alludes to the fact the Straw Hat wasn't solely about becoming great. Well, it is actually about becoming great, but great because you fit exactly what the world needs. Joyboy. Of course, Luffy isn't literally Joyboy, but he resembles the idea and the form of the Joyboy that once existed. Roger knew he himself was too early, and he passed the Straw Hat on to Shanks as a symbol of their mission, so to say, creating a Will of the Straw Hat, the mission to find the Great One, finding Joyboy so that Joyboy's treasure can truly be found, so that the One Piece can be found. Shanks attacking the government ship for that very specific devil fruit is pretty much proof of this. If the Nika fruit creates Joyboy, and Shanks assumingly wants to ready the next Joyboy, he would steal to give it to someone, a being that would wind up being Luffy. But why did Shanks choose Luffy? Well, actually, it was a complete accident. Luffy wasn't chosen, he just stumbled onto the fruit and ate it, as if fate intervened to give the fruit to Luffy, kinda like how Shanks appeared to Roger to fulfill his mission. Kinda cool. Though recall, Shanks was pretty angry about this. I imagine in this moment he was having a meltdown, his mission foiled by this silly kid. He then sacrificed his arm for Luffy, This with the knowledge of what the Gum Gum fruit means is pretty eye-opening. Sure, it's to protect Luffy, but it's also to protect the role he's now been pushed into. Finally, Luffy shouts at Shanks that he'll be king of the pirates, and with these words, Shanks passes the hat. The hat meant to sit atop the one who will become Joyboy. The statement "give it back when you become a great pirate" also changes a bit, as it means he can give it back when he's completed this role, a role Shanks has seemingly dedicated himself to making sure is fulfilled. The hat also gets another new meaning here. As to Shanks, it's like a sign of approval for who he's chosen. He acknowledges that Luffy really is the one he has been searching for. The hat means he wants Luffy to become great so he can become Joyboy. He passed on Roger's will to find a Joyboy. And finally, he himself accepts that Luffy is the right choice to become Joyboy. And I think the best part of it all is that we know this was pretty important to Shanks. We know it struck an especially big chord with him, as the first thing he mentions when seeing Rayleigh, the right hand of Roger, is that there was a kid saying the same exact thing as him, the very same words as the one who began this all. All suggests Shanks has been carrying out a role bigger than we could ever imagine. And honestly, at least to me, it makes it even easier to like the guy, as we now understand he accepted he wasn't the one like Roger wasn't, and instead of sulking, falling to the wayside, just falling off, he accepted that he has a bigger mission, and he dedicated himself to finding the one, finding the being we know would become Luffy. It's very selfless. The will of the Straw Hat began with Roger. It was a symbol of the freest man on the sea, Joyboy, the first ever pirate. Roger, in a way, fits this. He was the Pirate King, king of the seas, the freest place you could be. But the truth is, he was too early to the real treasure. And so he passed the will of the Straw Hat, the will of freedom, the will of becoming Joyboy, on to Shanks, in hope that he will carry the new age and find the one who fits the requirements. Shanks would do exactly this. As we've seen, fate was tossed to Luffy, he caught the ball, and, well, he's become exactly what the will suggested. Joyboy, the freest form ever. It's perfect because Luffy would end up saying the same exact things as Roger, the man who fit all the requirements but was just too early. And so, Shanks saw fit to pass on the symbol of it all, the Straw Hat. But hey, with all this past stuff covered, let's go back to the present. And oh boy, things are really changing. Things are really starting to get going. Trust me, you will see what I mean. Big Mom has fallen, Kaido was toppled right behind her, and the ones responsible are plastered all across the world. But by mistake, Luffy's picture reveals his new free form. Considering this is exactly what Shanks is presumed to be waiting for, becoming a great pirate alluded to unlocking this free form, we can expect a reaction, and we on cue get one. Shanks' crew celebrate loudly. Luffy has become a great pirate. They can't wait to see him. Shanks looks down at the paper with a proud smile, recalling the moment where he stole the Gum Gum / Nika fruit. This implies that it was without a doubt calculated. The ship was covered in deadly agents, literally as close as you're gonna get to a death trap. Yet Shanks demanded they go forward to get this singular fruit. He then goes on to recall his moments with Luffy as he holds his lost arm. It's time for their meeting, it would seem, yet Shanks then stands. He's not interested in seeing Luffy. Shanks sights one of Luffy's followers causing him trouble, all before pouring a drink, speaking aloud a bombshell announcement. It's time they made their move. Let's claim the One Piece. A shocking scene. Shanks has seemingly done everything to prop up the new era, Luffy specifically, yet now claims he's going to take the one thing they all want, the One Piece. But then, this scene is contrasted by what happens pages away. Right after Wano, in their time of rest, Luffy and Co are attacked by the newest admiral. The situation is very dire. Yet the sky then shakes and zaps. Supreme King Haki, strong enough to shock the Admiral to his core, hits, and it's instantly revealed to be Shanks's. From miles away, so far nobody knew of his presence, Shanks has directed his Haki to attack, and he scolds the Admiral. Luffy and Co just changed history. They're exhausted, and he wants them gone like that? Is he that afraid of the new era? Shanks grows angry and the Admiral leaves in a flash. Perhaps the scariest feat of Shanks yet. Without moving a finger, he's scared off one of the strongest forces in the series. All that's left is Luffy's reaction. Him smiling, saying that Haki, it reminded him of a familiar face. Shanks makes a statement that felt like he was very against Luffy, then turns around a moment later and protects him. And while a bit strange, this whole scene tells us two things. Shanks is finally entering the next part of his tale. A part I believe is his final part. While he entered into the story to set Luffy up, spent his time protecting him in the new era, it's finally time for him to be a part of it. And this makes sense. The conditions we've been led to believe have been met. The Straw Hat was meant to be passed to Joyboy and a great pirate, both of which Luffy has now become. Hey, remember that thing I started this video with? You know, when Oda said, when One Piece is in its final saga, Shanks will be around a lot more? Yeah, this is now. Shanks has made a big declaration and is going to move forward as the story moves forward. Considering as how when the story got rolling before we've seen him a bit more often, we're going to start seeing him a bit more often now that it's in its final act. It makes a lot of sense. So he's going to appear and be mentioned pretty damn often from here on out. So yeah, the story is really shifted right here in this moment. With this, we can begin to wonder what else this scene tells us. That being, whatever Shanks' part in this story is going to be from here on out, he needs to see or be near or to have the One Piece to do it. Also, this random choice that he can just do it now implies he could just do it whenever he wants, so yeah, aura. But I do want to note that this only comes after Luffy becomes Joyboy, what Roger led us to assume was the key to the One Piece. It almost confirms it, but it's almost like Oda wants us to look at Shanks like an enemy now. But I don't think that's the case, but I kinda do. Why would Shanks assumingly dedicate himself from a child to this mission if he was just going to betray Luffy? We get too many scenes suggesting Luffy really looks up to Shanks like, say, a parent for me to want to believe he'll betray him. This scene here in Skypiea is especially notable to me, as it's one of the rarest moments in One Piece, a moment where we actually see Luffy's thoughts. And what Luffy thinks of is Shanks, remembering what a great pirate means before he does something bad. Point is, Shanks is a role model and inspiration to Luffy, almost like what a parent would be to Luffy. And if I want to look at their relationship from the perspective of a parent, I think it all works out really well. Shanks set Luffy up for life by showing him what a great man was. He then watched over Luffy and protected him and his era. And now it's time for the final part of the story. It's time to give him tough love and force him to grow. I think we are kind of meant to look at Shanks like an enemy. Not because he's necessarily going to switch up and try and kill Luffy, but because while Luffy is Joyboy, while he is everything Shanks has been looking for, Luffy doesn't seem to really understand it all just quite yet. And so, who better than Shanks to drill it into him? Shanks' next move emphasizes this idea, as we soon catch up to him drinking when someone attacks. Shanks in Shanks style stands up with a smile, walking forward to the shores of Elbaf, demanding, does the attacker want to fight or flee? The attacker is revealed to be Kid, him instantly charging his cannon. In this moment, Shanks senses this, views far into the future with Haki, and witnessing a devastating future, jumps in and attacks Kid, one-shotting the 3 billion berry man in a mere second. The giants then charge up and send a shockwave towards the pirates, leaving Shanks as the victor, no questions asked. Shanks has been cool, calm, collected, but he is no longer really acting as that. He ruthlessly destroyed the kid pirate's ear. Again, it's meant to seem villainous in our eyes. We just spent the entire last arc with Kid. But Oda has left us with some clues to tell us this is the same Shanks we've always seen. This fight actually plays out just like the very first chapter of One Piece. Shanks casually drinks, it's all fun and games, but the second his friends are threatened, Shanks has no qualms about leaving nothing in his wake. It's the same Shanks, same reasoning for his actions, he's just actually moving towards a goal now. The other big moment is when Shanks and his crew capture Bartolomeo. He burnt down a flag of the red-haired pirates, disgracing their territory. Shanks refuses to let this go. If he gives them a pass, it'll look like he's soft, therefore placing everyone he cares for, everyone under his banner, in danger. A bottle of poison is placed at his feet. He must make Luffy drink it. And of course, Bartolomeo drinks it himself. Luffy has nothing to do with this. He cares for Luffy and has now proved it. The poison ends up doing nothing and the Bartolomeo pirates sail away. Shanks smiles. He's clearly very happy they care so much for Luffy, though he does blow the ship to bits. Again, he can't be seen as soft. To me, this reads as proof Shanks is everything we've thought of him as up to now. He's strong for the sake of others, only using his strength when it threatens his friends. Though with Bartolomeo, he specifically went through the effort of testing his loyalty to Luffy. He just didn't have to do that. It's like he himself wanted to see if Luffy has become great enough to have these types of friends, ones that would die for him. Again, same Shanks, same reasoning, just moving towards a goal now. I don't know how else to say this, but Shanks is about to take his biggest turn yet. Get ready. When this happened, when it came out, it was the biggest shock of all. Luffy finally makes his way to Elbaf, and considering it was just recently Shanks defeated Kid on the island shores, we of course often hear about the red-haired captain. It's also good to note Shanks seems to use Elbaf as a base of sorts. As you'll see, Shanks seems to be a casual frequenter of this island, and everyone on the island kinda knows him. It also makes even more sense considering Elbaf is constantly now being revealed to be very important to the grand narrative of One Piece, a fact Shanks would of course know. Luffy on Elbaf quickly finds Loki, and one of the first things mentioned here is that Loki knows Shanks. He came here. Loki calls Shanks a coward, which angers Luffy. He can't figure out why Shanks would come visit the giant. Other giants then mention that Shanks once caught Luffy rampaging and stopped it, proving he not only has the strength to injure Loki, but he definitely knows of him. Loki wasn't lying. The giants even mentioned that Shanks was here a while ago, but I guess he recently disappeared. Things are getting ominous, and it all comes to a head as in the background a black-cloaked man, the spitting image of the one seen meeting with the government, the one we suspected of being Shanks, is seen arriving in Elbaf. Could this be Shanks? The cloaked figure and his partner create a path to carnage towards Loki. When they find him, he refuses their offer of knighthood. Loki then puts it together they must be celestial dragons. They need him, but he refuses. The two cloaked figures attack Loki and he bellows out in pain, creating massive injuries. And with this, the cloaked red-haired man removes his hood, revealing Fagarland Shamrock, a noble, commander of the Holy Knights, and son of Saint Garling, one of the government's 5 elders. His goal is to bring Loki under the command of the government. This reveals the figure we saw 200 chapters ago. That dark cloaked man who approached the government wasn't actually Shanks. It was this man who looked suspiciously like him. He mentioned looking for a pirate, and while we assumed Blackbeard before, it's likely this was in reference to Loki. And speaking of Loki, Shamrock drops a bombshell before the giant. When Loki states he looks like Shanks, Shamrock openly states Shanks is his estranged twin brother, going on to say he returned to the Holy Land once, but he prefers the lower world. Before we can even digest this crazy truth, Shamrock brandishes his sword that transforms into a Cerberus, causing bloody damage to Loki before leaving. All as Luffy himself hears a strange rumor about a Shanks look-alike. What a thing to just take in. Shanks not only has a twin brother, but that twin is a nobleman, a very prominent nobleman, son to a man who is now one of the 5 heads. It's so insane, but it's actually a very good callback to Shanks' origins. Remember how they found him as a baby just in some random treasure chest after God Valley? Go figure, his family is of course extremely important. It was so obvious. But how does this truth connect with everything? It's all only ever mysteries with Shanks. 1,000 chapters into this manga, we're still learning things about this dude. We're in the final saga and he's still making us wonder. But if anything, the fact we are starting to get an understanding of Shanks means his story is truly in its final section. Luffy continues his trek through Elbaf. He wants to free Loki, this leading him to come across a silly old man. One who can't help but mention, Shanks was the only one known to ever capture Loki. The man is revealed to have the key to Loki's shackles, and in order to get it, Luffy will have to fight. Fight the man once known as the left arm of the Pirate King, Gaban. Amazing reveal, yet this means this is another person on Elbaf Shanks is connected to. And so it makes perfect sense when we see a small scene of Shanks telling Gaban Luffy will be coming. In the background though, we watch Shamrock begin his plan to get Loki on their side. Him and his crew of nobles plan to turn Elbaf into their personal game of horrors. And I can't help but just think this is intentional on Shanks' part. Elbaf seemed to be kind of a base to him. He was casually sitting here in the same way he was in the very first chapter of the series. And now that he's moved forward with his very next goal, going to get the One Piece for himself, Luffy isn't going to be able to run into him here, and it would seem, everything's pointed to it, that Shanks maybe isn't ready for that. And so, of course, he left Gaban with that mention of Luffy that we saw. It's kind of like a, hey, can you watch this kid for me? Also, if we're going to make the assumption Shanks wants Luffy to learn everything for himself, well, Elbaf is very important for this. It would make sense for Shanks to not only have his base here, but for it to be a point where he wants Luffy to learn everything for himself. He can't be here to guide him even if he has become that great pirate. This type of action just seems like such a Shanks thing to me. After all, it's what he's been doing this entire series. And again, this is where Shanks' tale takes another big drastic turn. I've said that like 3 times in this video, but it's Shanks, it happens a lot. As Elbaf falls into chaos, we view the Laugh-Tale backstory, and if you recall, right after this, Roger discovered Shanks in a treasure chest on his ship. Though before this, Shanks and his twin Shamrock's births were celebrated on God Valley, St. Garling being the father and an unnamed woman being the mother. Though it's clear their mother was never important. The second the twins were born, she was cast aside and killed by Garling. All that seems to matter to him is that his blood is passed on. This already surrounds the twins with a troubled fate, as from the second they were conceived, they were not more than a status symbol to their noble father. The Rock's pirate attack on God Valley then kicks off, and a young marine dragon, already sensing the wrongs of the cause, finds one of the twins knocked away and out cold. In an instant, Dragon takes the child and runs. If he can do something positive in this horrific moment, it would change his world. Yet in the chaos he's knocked away, opening his eyes to find the child he held is gone. All as we watch the baby wander into a treasure chest. As the numerous ships sail away, the story would go on as we know it. A baby Shanks was sleeping softly in a treasure chest that ended up on Roger's ship. And like that, the odd question of how Shanks even got there is answered. It was truly like a whimsical act of fate. But Oda has decided he isn't done with the Shanks lore drops yet. Remember, we're truly in that final saga. But Oda decided we needed to know about what happened to Shanks in his teen years. Those years after Roger died, what was Shanks even up to? In the years following Roger's execution, we look into the story of Harold, where upon working to become a holy knight, he encounters Saint Garling. Garling is aged, but we can instantly tell he's kept Shamrock at his side. Having powerful children is a symbol of power to him, but it's not just Shamrock. Shanks too is introduced. Garling explains how Shanks was separated at birth. He has been training under them, and will likely soon be on the level of Shamrock. The intention too is to make Shanks a holy knight. Also, Harold recognizes Shanks, but Shanks says in the most over-exaggerated way that he doesn't know the giant. Shanks and Shamrock then walk side by side, Shanks urging him to tell him info. Shamrock suggests that they have time, don't worry, but Shanks again over-exaggerates his speech. He wasted 24 years of his life. He knew he was different, and he hated everything down there. Yet it would seem Harold, listening on, refuses to buy this. So sometime after Roger passed, Shanks went off to the Holy Land, was vetted as the long-lost twin to Shamrock, and accepted because, well, his father just wants status symbols. This is likely a big part of why Shanks said he didn't want to go for the One Piece right away. He wanted to learn of his heritage, or maybe this is perhaps something Roger told him the last time he seen him. Though I believe it's very easy to look at this scene with a different set of lens, that Shanks is putting on a horrible act. Besides the D-list acting, it's worse than that. Shanks' eye is bandaged up. Likely the wound his adult self would reveal was caused by Blackbeard. Shanks was aware of the threat Blackbeard posed. It's one thing he's always been certain of, he's mentioned it time and time again throughout this manga. And understanding and actually being injured by this threat, I imagine the reason he went off to the Holy World was to get secrets, to learn as much as he possibly could because of this threat to the world. It's pretty perfect that Shanks would have been able to leverage his heritage as a way to learn more. You can also see it as him furthering Roger's will in the Straw Hat and all that stuff. That encounter with Blackbeard, having assumingly happened recently, must have been a "I gotta get serious" moment for Shanks. This scene just really fills in the blanks, like how Shanks would have known of the Nika fruit and how the government had covered up its name. Honestly, him going back and being a nobleman for a bit of time makes a lot of sense. Also, I'd like to say I'm pretty sure there's no chance of Shanks being a double agent for the Knights, Emu, all that. He wouldn't steal the fruit and allow it to awaken into Gear 5. That is pretty much the government's worst fear from everything we've seen. I'm not going to point out examples, but they would hate for that to happen, and it seems like they would get literally nothing out of it. So I'm not even going to play into the idea. Years later, we see Shanks visiting Gabon in Elbaf, and I'd like to point out, since this is after that period of being a holy knight, look how much happier Shanks looks. It's just a very clear difference. Shanks here expresses how much he's learning, which is what we assumed he became a holy knight to do. It makes sense. Olis Gabon calls him a child of fate. I've been hinting towards this label the entire video, but it's finally said here. It proves that Shanks truly is important to the grand narrative. And considering we've deduced his role to carrying on the Straw Hat's will, creating the next Joyboy, then yes, Shanks is without a doubt a child of fate. He is a fate he himself can only carry out. Gabon also reveals here that Roger had a son. He reveals Ace to Shanks. It's a heartwarming scene as Shanks accepts him like a little brother. Shanks then states he'll be the next king of the pirates, floating the interesting idea that perhaps Shanks originally wanted to make Ace into Joyboy, but I'm just not going to get into that as it could literally be a whole video on its own. Shanks then expresses an urge to speak to Harold, revealing what the covenant they've joined does, and explaining how Harold likely shouldn't join the next level, as he will not be able to disobey Emu. And this also answers something else. Shanks lost the arm that he had this covenant on, creating the idea that he deliberately let this arm get destroyed so he wouldn't have to deal with this covenant anymore. Not only is it a sign of his noble heritage he's clearly not fond of, but it's also a connection to Emu, a being who has horrifying powers over you if you keep the covenant. To our horror, this is sadly happening right on the other side of the island. Harold has gone berserk attempting to resist Emu. Shanks and Gaban are forced to strike the giant, yet no matter what, he's unstoppable, leading Loki to have to finish his own father. Of course, in the aftermath, Shanks breaks down, him loving his precious ones more than anything, and he's just lost another. It hits even harder though with Harold specifically. Harold joined the Holy Knights to bring nothing else other than peace to his nation. Shanks obviously contrasts this to himself. It was so easy for him to join the Knights due to his heritage. He basically got everything he wanted for free. Shanks had it easy while Harold went through hell, and it's left him standing while Harold has fallen. Gaban then grabs Shanks. Stop. That is his bad habit again. Don't regret your birth. Shanks screams out in pain, and Gaban reassures him. It's not his fault. Everyone's life has meaning. Shanks still has a role to play. Regretting being born is an understandable thing for this very moment. Shanks is carrying the pain on his shoulders of how closely this moment relates to his own tale. Though it being called a bad habit by someone who's known him since a kid, sheds a very sad light onto Shanks. Shanks embodies Roger's will. He carried on what Roger resembled, a pirate, the freest one on the seas. Yet Shanks was of noble heritage, people who believe in the complete opposite of that there are people lesser, that there are people they want to enslave. And Shanks, having part of that in him, must have felt terrible. It's a horrific idea that goes against everything that is Shanks. And the idea of this being a bad habit sheds a sad light onto other things. Why is it that Shanks is constantly drinking? I mean, nothing wrong with enjoying a drink, but perhaps in retrospect, it's a way to numb himself. You can also look at his carefree attitude towards himself differently. He'll let himself take hits and disrespect without worry. It's never till it actually involves others where he himself gets upset. Again, maybe it's perhaps due to this bad habit, regretting his birth and being down on himself. But I have to say, at the moment, this is all we've gotten for Shanks. I bet whatever we do get is going to continue in Shanks fashion. Random appearance that gives us questions and just makes us want to know a lot more about him. I do really hope though that we get to see the scene where he stopped Loki's rampage, or at least a glimpse of it. As we know Shanks is strong, but him standing up to this giant would just be another level. It would be super cool. Though if there was one thing to take away from Shanks, it was that he was truly chosen by the world. And as Gaban just said, he still has a role to play. Shanks was on God Valley and placed by fate onto Roger's ship, the to-be king of the pirates, the freest man in the world. He experienced everything at his side. He grew up with his values, and he was left with Roger's keepsake, his mission, and his will. Shanks was also of noble birth, giving him the chance to see that world and learn its secrets. Shanks has seen the deepest depths of both sides, which makes him the one to carry Roger's will all the more noteworthy. Though despite this, Shanks wasn't the one. He is not the one who would become Joyboy, and while you would expect someone to get upset with this idea, it would seem it was the complete opposite for Shanks. Shanks instead understood. Shanks understood that he wasn't the one. Rather, his role was that he's the perfect one to choose the one. And it only makes perfect sense that it has to be him. Shanks understands it all. He understands the horrors. He understands freedom. He understands what it means to be great. And he understands what he himself must do. Every act and part of himself makes him the right one to choose the right one. And it all leads to the day Luffy ate that devil fruit. Shanks' story has never been about Shanks. And the funny part is, this idea has been there from the very beginning. And Oda has only continued to make us see this and view this more and more. Shanks sacrificed his arm for Luffy. He did this permanent, painful action for a no-name child. all because it was never about him. Shanks' whole character from the start has been a guy who loves others more than himself. That selfless trait has been him. Shanks warns of threats like Blackbeard because he loves the world more than himself. He wants to protect the new era and in turn Luffy. Finally, he's declared he's searching for the One Piece, yet his actions still show a deep care for Luffy, all implying even this drastic measure, it might too still be for Luffy. Shanks is a child of fate, not the child of fate, but the one chosen to prop up the child of fate. He is the link between discovery and fruition. He is the one keeping a watchful eye so that Luffy can bloom into what fate has chosen him to be. It is something only Shanks can truly do. It's a mission larger than himself. And everything we've seen signals to that very truth. That fate has chosen him for this very thing. This thing we are going to see in the final saga of One Piece. But with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of me going in depth about Shanks. Let me know what else you would like to see, and until next time, bye.